David Brewster here with a new episode of Soloing Secrets, and this is Jimmy Page, and I've had lots of requests to feature more of Jimmy Page's music and the music of Led Zeppelin, and if you search on the channel, you'll find episodes of Chord Play and 3 for All devoted to Led Zeppelin and the music of Jimmy Page. But this is Soloing Secrets, so we're going to be diving into his licks and his lead style. And, Jimmy Page is a legend, so what could I possibly say that hasn't been said or written or, recorded in tribute to Jimmy Page? I mean, he's a legend of the guitar, an essential, rock guitar icon, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, working in the studio, all of his session work, even before the Yardbirds, and then a member of the Yardbirds, Led Zeppelin, The Firm, joined forces with David Coverdale, and of course Robert Plant, toured with the Black Crowes. I mean, Jimmy Page is literally a walking rock guitar legend. So I think I've mentioned this in other videos on the channel here, but I'm a huge Led Zeppelin fan. I love Led Zeppelin. I love Jimmy Page and the whole band. John Paul Jones, John Bonham, of course Robert Plant. I mean, you can't beat Led Zeppelin. You really can't. And there's just something really magical about their music and their legacy and their history. And I've read a lot of books about Led Zeppelin, and here's an image with some books that I highly recommend. It includes Brad Talinsky's Light and Shade, When Giants, Walk the Earth, which is Mick Wall, and also Led Zeppelin by Bob Spitz. But these books are great. If you're a Zeppelin fan and you haven't read these, I highly recommend this trio of books. I actually approached this lesson similar to how I approached the Jimi Hendrix, the recent Soloing Secrets for Jimi Hendrix that I did. And in that episode, I analyzed, Hendrix's 3 main, studio albums, and analyzed his licks and solos and phrasing, and then basically came up with examples and exercises and licks, based around those ideas. And that's what I did with Jimmy Page. I basically took the first 4 Led Zeppelin albums, and I just researched and scoured and really, analyzed the fills, the licks, the solos, bending licks, and all this stuff that comes up, pull-offs and open string licks and all kinds of stuff, these recurring things that you'll find Jimmy Page do when he grabbed a solo, played a fill or a lick somewhere in a song. So if you're a Jimmy Page fan, we're going to dive really deep into his playing style and phrasing and licks and where all this stuff comes from. And as far as Jimmy Page's actual soloing secrets that I discovered, of course he loves pentatonic scales, major and minor, the blues, the minor blues scale, the hybrid pentatonic scale. He also does a lot of, open string licks where he pulls off and uses open strings, and that's acoustic and electric guitar. But I'm mainly talking about the electric guitar here since we're talking about soloing secrets. Also a lot of pull-offs. I noticed, tons of pull-offs, more than hammer-ons. And of course, modified blues phrasing and string bending and vibrato. But here's an image with some of Jimmy Page's, secrets whenever he grabs a guitar solo. So as far as Jimmy Page's favorite scales, like I mentioned, he loves pentatonic scales for sure. Minor pentatonic and major pentatonic. Also the minor blues and hybrid pentatonic. So in the key of E, which I just put this in the E here, but E minor pentatonic right here, the box. And right there you can kind of see this trademark move of shifting back and grabbing the G right there. And that's something that Jimmy Page does a lot. Instead of this, and grabbing that G right there with his pinky, let's say, almost always I found him going down like that on the A and shifting to grab that note. Instead of like that. And the minor blues right there, just add the flat 5. Right there. You want to end that the same way with that little shift to that G note. And the hybrid blues scale, or the hybrid pentatonic scale rather, but we've talked about this like when the Jeff Beck soloing secrets, and that you're basically just filling in some of the missing notes from that pentatonic scale. So we're grabbing this F sharp and that C sharp, also the flat 5, also the major 7 there, that D sharp, the flat 5 right there, that B flat. And also you'll find I found a lot of licks where Jimmy Page, grabs the minor third and then shifts to the major third. So if he was going to play that hybrid pentatonic scale, he might do it like that. And also the major pentatonic does appear a lot in Jimmy Page's, solos and stuff. And sometimes even when he's working primarily kind of out of a minor key, sometimes he'll just shift to the major pentatonic and it throws out this really different, sound, and then he goes right back into minor. Does a lot in blues too, where he'll shift like maybe to the 5 chord and he'll go to major pentatonic just to bring out that real bluesy kind of sound. So in the key of E, if we're playing over E major, instead of playing E minor pentatonic, you're going to play E major pentatonic. So the easiest way to see that is just move the minor pentatonic box back a minor third. Just go back 3 frets and you're going to play C sharp minor pentatonic. Right? C sharp minor, but over E major, that's going to sound like E major pentatonic. Like that. So there's your minor and major. And you'll definitely find Jimmy kind of weaving between those two. Really cool. One thing Jimmy really likes to do with these minor pentatonic scales are those crammed sequenced runs where he just kind of flies through a position. And you can think of lots of Led Zeppelin songs like the Heartbreaker solo or maybe Good Times, Bad Times. And you'll find licks like this. One more time. And they were literally just coming down. Really cool to hear those just crammed runs like that, just flying right through a minor pentatonic. And once again, you're using that kind of shift back to that G right there, like that. Another thing you'll see Jimmy do with these minor pentatonic ideas is he'll introduce the major third into the minor pentatonic, scale, like this. Right there you can definitely hear the bend to E come down, and it's just kind of like right at the end, like a cherry on top. You can definitely hear him do it in other positions, like here's A. Targeting that C sharp right there. And there I did it in E originally. But that kind of, setting that last note up on a silver platter like that. And really it just kind of pops when you hear that note kind of altered, because you hear the G. And then you hear that G sharp. Another thing Jimmy likes to do with minor pentatonic scales is he'll target the top strings and he'll create these pull-off licks, almost like a pivot type of lick. And in the song How Many More Times, you'll hear him do this. Like that, and you're literally just pulling off G to E and then grabbing that B on the B string right there. And just grab that G and bend it to A at the end. And then take a song like the Lemon Song, like when it moves to A, because the riffs, in E. When it moves to A, and you'll definitely hear him modify that lick. So instead of doing this G, E, B, he starts doing this G, E to C sharp. Like that. So instead of this, in the Lemon Song, you'll hear him do, and right there we're bending that G to the root, that A. And I like that little twist of just adding, a C sharp instead of that B. And then also in the Lemon Song, you'll hear a variation of the first idea. So he does this. And then you actually hear him move down another set of strings. There he's grabbing D, B, and that G. It kind of gives you a taste of moving it around to a different set of strings. And there's tons of examples of this. Think of a Heartbreaker and you'll hear him do this. Like at the end of the solo. And definitely there's tons of variations of this, just kind of modifying the notes and kind of implying and creating different tonalities and sounds, which is so cool. Now speaking of Heartbreaker, there's two phrases in that song that Jimmy Page definitely kind of recycled and used in other songs. And the first phrase, something like this. It's kind of a common like hammer-on pull-off phrase, that A up to C, back to that A, and then you're grabbing that G. The other phrase is definitely kind of a signature Jimmy Page pull-off, and you're doing, and right there you're pulling off that C to A, B to A, and then you're grabbing that G to A. Now sometimes he'll modify that shape and he would grab, like I said, this F sharp. Like if he's doing more of a major pentatonic kind of thing. Or minor. But then if we move that to the key of E, like we were in earlier, you can actually modify that phrase and you can move it across the strings, and you'll definitely see Jimmy Page do this. So now let's move back to E. And we're going to do like that. And right there I'm targeting that C sharp on the B string. You could also target D on the B string. Whichever one you prefer. If you want to target that D note or the C sharp, or you can alternate, and that sounds kind of cool. But now move to the next set of strings and do the same thing right here. Right there you're pulling off that D to B and then C sharp to B and grabbing A. Let's move it over again. Now we're going to incorporate the the flat 5. So we're doing like the minor blues. Like that. Another thing you'll find find Jimmy Page doing a lot are these open string kind of pull-off licks, where he's usually using pull-offs, to an open string. And he does this in riffs and solos and fills, electric guitar, acoustic guitar, it's all over his music. And keep in mind, he also worked with Jeff Beck temporarily in the Yardbirds. And Jeff Beck is a monster, rockabilly player and fan. He recorded an entire, tribute album to Gene Vincent. So I guarantee some of these ideas probably came from trading licks with Jeff Beck because they were working together, they're friends. And then definitely Jimmy Page probably has some additional influences as far as these ideas. So as far as the rockabilly thing, there's a whole bunch of rockabilly, open string, pull-off licks like this. But just think of the key of A. And right there, we're just pulling off on the G and the D. You can also do it down there to E. And that's a really common area right there. And during the opening jam, you might have heard me do some pull-off licks that were definitely Jimmy Page inspired, like that. And then he also modifies those licks. And right there, really weird. You can hear lots of variations of these ideas. Now if you take this raw idea, you take that idea and just stay on the G string and just do this, this B to A to G. Now modify that B to a C right there, and that's going to imply like an A minor 7. Now take that A and move it up to B flat right there. Now let's move up again. Let's grab this open G, that B, and that D, and that's G major. Now grab this C note right there. So the open G, D to C. Move that up a whole step right there. Grab that E, D, and that open G. Now you can stretch up and grab this G, E, and that open G. Grab that G, F, G. If you want that kind of twisted outside sound, kind of like G major 7, grab F sharp right there. But right there, you're kind of thinking a little differently because you're finding, what works with that open string. And depending on what key you're in or what you want to imply, you can actually kind of modify some of those licks into different, ways. And think of the Heartbreaker solo once again. Right, and it's a really unusual phrase. And right there, he's literally just kind of stretching out. And starts bending behind the nut and stuff. But you can find lots of examples of this in Led Zeppelin's music and Jimmy Page's, guitar style. We're going to wrap this episode looking at one of my favorite Led Zeppelin songs. This is a little piece of Since I've Been Loving You from Led Zeppelin 3. And I love this song. Definitely Jimmy Page just shines on this song. It's a minor blues in C minor. It's kind of a slow, C minor blues. And it's really interesting what he does when the chord changes to the 4 chord, to F minor. So that's what we're going to investigate here. We've changed keys, we've changed songs, but I'm going to loop that with the TC Electronic Ditto Looper, and you'll hear Jimmy Page basically do something like this. Targeting the minor 3rd of F. Definitely Jimmy Page is a master of that. Look at the Stairway to Heaven solo. The opening lick, sets up and he's targeting that outside F note from A minor pentatonic, but it matches the chord F, and the chord progression behind him. And that's kind of what's happening here. He's playing C minor blues. But when that chord changes to F minor, the 4 chord, he's basically, targeting that minor third of F right there. That's basically A flat right there. And then when you hear it go back to C, then he just drifts back into C minor pentatonic. And that's one thing you definitely pick up from studying Jimmy Page's music and his playing style, his soloing, these habits and different things that he does, is that targeting of notes, whether he's targeting a note that he's bending, sliding into it. He could be actually physically playing, like slide, like bottleneck slide. He might just be sliding with his fingers. He does all sorts of stuff like that. So if you really get in there and really notice these things he does, there's all sorts of little subtle changes and shifts and bends and stuff in his playing, but it gives it such a signature, unique sound. Nobody sounds like Jimmy Page. That's going to wrap this episode of Soloing Secrets with this look at Jimmy Page. And I've been a Led Zeppelin and Jimmy Page fan since I was a teenager, just a puppy. And definitely Van Halen sparked my interest and inspired me to start playing guitar. But not too long after that, I locked on to Led Zeppelin. And I'm not really sure where that came from, because Eddie always talked about Clapton, which I love Eric Clapton. But I really love Jimmy Page, I really love Led Zeppelin. And the history and all the stories and all the things that they did, or some of the things they didn't do or whatever. But it's so interesting, and it's it's so unusual to think of this band in today's world. It's like, would Led Zeppelin even exist today? But back in the 70s, they literally just took over the world. They changed the game. Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones, John Bonham, and Robert Plant individually, they changed the role of all these different, musicians in a band. What the bass player does, what the drummer does, what the singer does, and obviously what the guitarist does with Jimmy Page. And aside from the electric guitar stuff that he did, then you flip it into all the acoustic guitar stuff that he did. Playing slide and open tunings and all kinds of stuff. It's like, wow, he's literally just a dynamite legend of the guitar. And there's so much you can pick up from studying Jimmy Page's music. So anyway, leave some feedback and comments. Please subscribe to my lessons, and I'll be back before you know it with more content and material. Thank you.